So listen, it's great to talk with you, Liz, over Zoom at this time particularly, and I know you're very busy in open arms, although you're not meeting in your church building these days, is that right?
No, everything is happening online, so we've all had to become technologically savvy very quickly.
Very quick because of the whole corona thing and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can only walk out 2 kilometers from your home, is that the deal?
Yeah, 2 kilometers. I haven't taken advantage of that too often. Being in the risk category, I'm not in the high risk category that I have to cocoon.
Yeah.
But I'm not out and about all the time.
You're not running out there either, which nobody should be really. Yeah, absolutely. So you are you kept busy with talking to people and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm very busy. I try and keep in contact as much as possible with those whom I had been counselling previous to the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that online because, as you know, the problems don't go away just because a pandemic happens or anything else. And so that has been a challenge, for me. But people have appreciated it, and we've been able to, continue on resolving problems and conflicts and encouraging people. Then just talking to the general congregation, about how they're coping with the lockdown and children being at home, and just seeing that they're okay.
So what kind of things are people struggling with at the moment that you're coming across?
Yeah, fear probably of catching the virus is one thing. Now, a lot of people I talk to are not in fear, not in fear because, they're trusting God and believe in God, but they're being wise. And that's what we would encourage people. You've got to take all the precautions. But the fear, I suppose, is the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
When is it going to end? How are we going to cope with life continues like this? What if I get it? What happens to my family? And so it's those kind of situations.
Yeah, because there are quite a few unknowns there. We don't know how long it's going to go on either, do we? And all of that. And have you heard of many people that have been tested positive or in hospital or anything?
Yeah. We currently have one person in the church. We've had quite a few have been tested and they have been negative. They had symptoms, but it wasn't the virus. One has been diagnosed with it. In fact, one of our ladies, her dad just died last week with it. Now, he had underlying problems, as well.
Though, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. So that's a challenge. Especially, other people have relations who have died, and the whole funeral situation, which is what we're so good at doing in Ireland, coming alongside people when somebody dies. And
the whole community comes out, don't they? Yeah.
Not being able to do that in a way that we're familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would know of over 10 people that have, maybe 14 people that have contracted the virus. One has died, and 2 are fighting for their lives at the moment, all in Britain. But people I would know and people I would work with, or colleagues and all that kind of stuff. So it's
so it really, when it comes close to your own door. Yeah, and we've a huge amount of people working on the frontline services.
Okay.
And and we've been praying for them. We have a whole prayer team, and the needs are great for the frontline workers.
Yeah. My own wife is a nurse. She's not in the ICU, but it's there's precautions that we've taken at home we wouldn't even have thought of before, and there's the possibility of getting it and all that kind of stuff. And then my mother-in-law, we can't go near her because it could happen. So it's just different days, aren't they? So how are you helping people, Liz, in all of this? How's that working for you? Or how are you able to point people to?
Yeah, the most thing I find, the tools, from our theotherapy that we use at the moment, that I use most regularly at the moment, is the one of acceptance and surrender. And even to bring people on that journey, because acceptance of things, of the unknown, is scary.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can do it without having a faith that confirms that the one who is holding the unknown is I find for me a good place to start with people is maybe reminding them of the Serenity Prayer, which most of us are very familiar with in Ireland. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And in fact, I have the little prayer here. There's more to it. That the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as he did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever. So it's even starting there with people, like, you know, to accept the things they can't change. We cannot change where we are at the moment in the world with this crisis, this virus that seems to be, you know, everywhere. And so it's even accepting, you know, that that's the way it is at the moment. Accepting lockdown, accepting cocooning, because it is a reality for people in their lives. And so it's as if I was saying to them, here, you have to accept it. And they said, no, I don't want to accept it. That causes conflict. Whereas if I say, here, this, you have to accept it, and they accept it, then there's peace. And they can make decisions then what to do with it. So the next step is, I surrender. I really can't do anything with it. It's a fact of my life now. So I am going to surrender my unknown, my fears to him.
I was talking to one person and they were saying, well, I just try not to think about it. Does that help, or what do you think about that?
No, it doesn't help. And that's been my experience, because so people would say that to me, and then as soon as we might deeper into the conversation, all the fears and the anxiety rises up in them.
Yeah.
You know, when they think things, and they say, I don't want to go there. They think it's like opening a can of worms.
Yeah.
And I say that we have the tools to deal with the can of worms. So I'm never afraid of opening a can of worms with people.
So these tools that you're talking about are, in this case, acceptance and surrender, is it?
Acceptance and surrender.
And surrendering to who? How does that? Surrendering to the virus? Surrendering to God?
Surrendering. It is surrendering to God, because if I get the virus, I get the virus.
Okay.
I have a responsibility to keep the safe distance, to wash my hands, to do everything that I can to protect myself. But I'm not doing it out of fear. I'm not protecting myself out of fear. I'm protecting myself out of, I have information, I have knowledge that if I do these things, it will help me.
So you're being cautious rather than fearful, like putting on the safety belt. Yeah.
And being wise. That's what the thing is, to have the wisdom, you know, the wisdom to know the things I can do, and then the courage to face the things I can't. I can't stop it. I could be in the shop, I could touch something that somebody has, and maybe I could get the virus. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'm not living in fear.
There's a phrase, isn't it, that people use, and I think sometimes it's a helpful phrase, is, it is what it is.
Exactly, it is what it is. But, you know, we do say that without actually looking at all the ramifications of it. Because people's worst fear is dying, you know, death. Death is the thing that we fear most. And so we face, so I don't hear too many people saying, well, if I die, I die.
That's true, yeah.
You know, I die. That's where I would be wanting them to get to, that if I die, I die. Because death has been conquered, as well as coronavirus, as well as all these fears that we have, by him, by God, you know. So that's the one we're putting our trust in. And we Irish, because I'm dealing mostly with Irish people in Ireland, they're not all Irish, you know, but people in Ireland, that's how we've lived out our faith, by talking about God, but maybe not always trusting him. Wow. And my desire is, as I counsel with people, that faith that we profess becomes real and living and life-changing and life-enhancing. And that's been my experience with people.
And that's what I've been saying to people as well, that I've always kind of have a disciplined life with regard to prayer and all that, and Bible reading. I wouldn't be overall disciplined in many things, but I would with that. But I found now that it's really important to have those things
It is
in
important.
place. Yeah.
It is, because, you know, God would want our personality to be based on those pillars of faith, hope, and love. And most times those pillars are shaky in us, you know, so we can become destabilized very quickly. And something like this virus comes along, I tell you, it will shake you if you're not solidly based on those pillars of faith, hope, and love. So faith in who? Well, I can't have faith in the tree, or faith in, you know, the stars,
or something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that something is, it's not going to sustain me. I want to have faith in the one who's sustaining these things. And my belief is that is God. I think a lot of people in this country, that is their belief too, but it may be a bit shaky at the moment, and it mightn't be founded on truth. I mean, I grew up, my knowledge of God came from movies and TV and people. It didn't come from His word, you know. And so it was when I was I was 40, and before I started ever reading the Word of God.
You mean the Bible?
And that gave me, the Bible, and that gave me strength. It gave me knowledge, and it actually, the faith that I had grown up in became real.
Fabulous.
You know, the prayers I said in church, they became so real for me. Like the Our Father, I used to rattle that off. Do you know?
How would you approach the Our Father now?
Oh wow, how would I approach it now? Our Father. How amazing is that? Our Father. He didn't say you have to call me, bow down and do it. He said, I'm your Father. Imagine the realization. The first time I realized that He wanted me, He wanted to be a father to me, because I was always looking for a father.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I didn't know I was looking for a father. But actually, when I had that revelation that God was my Father, and He was also the Father to you, and to people I was doing life with, He was the Father to my family, that just opened my eyes. And, you know, who are, hallowed be your name. Like heaven. I mean, I never thought about heaven. I didn't know anything about heaven. I thought maybe it was clouds and, you know, the typical picture we have of somebody playing a harp sitting on a cloud. You know, and God was somebody with a beard. So we put an image on God, but we can't. That's why He sent Jesus. So Jesus is the one we connect with. So
you're saying to me that in the midst of the context that you're in at the moment, and other people around you are in, that you're connecting to God through Jesus Christ, and that's very real for you?
Very real. Very, very real.
It's not just rattling off a prayer then?
No. Not just rattling off a prayer. Because look, we've gone through Holy Week. It's been different in this country, celebrated differently than we've ever had to do it before.
Sure.
And yet it still happened, you know. Easter still happened. And that my hope and prayer is that it did draw people more to the reality of what happened on Good Friday and Easter Sunday, that there is life after death, that there is hope, that we live in the here and now, but, you know, this is temporal.
In other words, I was saying to someone else, we're just passing through.
We're passing through. We're on a journey.
Yeah. And we want things to stay the same all the time, don't we? But
we do.
Nothing stays the same, does it? Yeah.
People say so often, the one thing that's constant is change. You know, it changes, like, you know.
Our death and taxes.
And this is a very challenging time for all of us. For government, very challenging time for them. It's very challenging time for workers, for bosses, for churches. Very challenging time for churches. You know, we're pushed from our comfort zone of, you know, having a building and drawing people into a building. Now we have to reach out. We have to find ways. How do we reach out to people where they're at? And it's wonderful. We can reach out in their sitting rooms.
It's fabulous, isn't it? Yeah. That's been brilliant chatting with you, and we'll catch up with you again soon. But it's thanks for that wisdom, particularly of the acceptance and surrender, and just surrendering, to God, and that He's your Father and He's very personal to you. And something I wrote down actually when you were talking was, people have talked about God in Ireland for a long time, but maybe now it's time to start trusting Him. I thought that was great. So thanks very much, and we'll catch up really soon again, Liz. Thanks again.
Yeah, wonderful to talk to you, Brian. Chat soon. God bless.
Floods of revival, Lord, let them fall. Streams of salvation reaching to all. Pour out thy Spirit, great is our need. Sweep o'er our beings now whilst we plead. Spirit divine, oh, quicken us now, while in thy presence humbly we bow. Set all our hearts ablaze with thy love. Teach us the secret of life